guys, my name is Destruct, and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be discussing base building and the ability to pilot large freighter ships in No Man's Sky, and what possibilities we could expect for these two upcoming features. If you didn't know already, Sean Murray confirmed that they will be adding base building and the ability to pilot large freighter ships, and now it is confirmed, and I have played the game. I thought it was time to revisit base building, which I have discussed previously, but also look into freighter ships and how these could play a role in the game. So let's start with base building. In my previous discussion about this subject, I mentioned that base building in No Man's Sky will most likely be a similar system to many real-time strategy games like Tropico, where you will enter a sort of free cam mode, and you will be able to choose what building types and designs you want, and almost drag and drop these buildings in the locations you want. If you want to think of it as dragging a highlight of the selected building across the terrain, and it will go red where it's unsuitable terrain, and green where it can be placed down. So for example, on mountainous or hilly terrain, it wouldn't really be possible to build a base, otherwise it would be like diagonal, sort of upside down. And yeah, flat plains would obviously be a suitable place to place the buildings. So what I think is that the building system should be very simple, because if we have to craft these buildings ourselves like in Far Cry 4, it will become very messy. We need to have distinct building types and variants of these, with different colours, interiors. So as an example, you could have in like a list, you could have a small base, a hangar, a bar, a hydroponic lab, a trade room. So taking the variants of interiors from space stations and adding them into our own little base interiors. Another type of building could be a factory, as this would definitely make a lot of traders happy, as they could build their own factory next to a trade post and sell their own products. Hello Games could also try and add a procedural generation spin on base building, so perhaps they could have a bunch of different variants of these bases, and we can hit a generate button to create new designs in the menu before we choose. Also, how about flags? We could design our own custom sort of emblems to go on our flags, to fly on our base, or use faction flags, and this could attract members of that faction to the base to trade, or boost your standing with the particular faction if you're flying their flag. If you want to think of it as perhaps you have a trade room in your base, and you have a Viking flag flying outside, then once you've built it, you can go in there and there'll be a Viking warrior there, ready to just talk with you, basically. So that's base building. I reckon it could definitely be a very interesting feature, and a lot of people would really enjoy that. As long as it's very expensive to build these bases, I think it will add a lot of extra time into the game, as players spend hours trying to find the perfect location, the perfect planet, and these people will trade their way to buying a hangar of their own or a bar. This really gets me excited speculating, even with small things like, you know, building a little lab or whatever on the side of your base. Really gets people really excited and makes people want to, you know, grind the extra hours to get the money for this. You know, if as long as it's very expensive and it takes a lot of effort to get single bit structures, this will be a very successful feature. If it's really cheap and you can just build bases wherever you want for a really easy price, then that will kind of not be very exciting, not a very good feature, and it won't last very long. So now let's discuss freighter ships, and although it seems like a cool idea, it may be very difficult to implement. If you look at the size of the freighters which cruise above planets, they are enormous, and the entire game has pretty much been designed for these single-person ships. If you look at the space stations, Atlas stations, trade posts, for one, in the space stations, Atlas stations, you can't actually get in with a freighter because the entrance is too small. It's a really narrow entrance, and then you've got the landing pads, which are so small that you know, even some of the bigger ships can't seem to like sort of overflow off the edge of the landing pad. So imagine you've got a massive freighter; it would take up the size of the hangar and more. So this could definitely be very tricky to add in, and I think the parking problem would just be extreme. But I have thought of a couple of ways Hello Games could get around this to be able to successfully implement this feature. So the first way of getting around this issue would be to simply redesign the game a little bit. So if we code in that all trading posts have a separate landing pad on the side which holds as a freighter. This would mean that players could just land there. But even adding this into space stations and atlas stations would not remove the issue of getting inside the station in the first place. And if we had to redesign the entire structure of these space stations, it would kind of be game breaking, and a lot of people would be kind of upset about that. Now this leads me into my next possible fix, which would be to have a close range teleport feature. Basically, when you're coming into a certain radius of a trade post, or you enter the tractor beam thing on the space station, you can be prompted on screen to basically warp inside. So your ship would temporarily disappear, and you would either appear in the space station or on the trading post. And when you're finished, there could be a little terminal. You go over to it, and you can warp back into your freighter. And this would be a very easy way of adding in freighters, and not really changing too much for the people who don't want to maybe play with the freighters in the game. It would almost not really change anything, but yeah, add in this amazing new feature. So another thing with freighters as well is that I feel like if they're added in, that we need to have the ability to own a freighter and a normal ship at the same time, because I feel like it could be one of those things where people don't want to be with the freighter like all the time, like 24/7. It might be more of one of those things where your friends come round, you got No Man's Sky, you want to show them something cool, and you bring out this massive freighter ship. That's the kind of thing that's the kind of category I'd fit it into. I don't think it's going to be very convenient or even particularly useful at many points. It'll be quite an issue trying to land it places, but that's how I kind of see it. I don't think it'd be good if people try out the freighter and then they lose their original ship. That's just a bit unfair. It would be cool if we could just sort of change between them. I'm not sure how this could be implemented, but it's just a little discussion. But yeah, guys, let me know how you guys feel about base building and freighter ships in the comments below, and be sure to drop a like, as it does help me out. I'm really enjoying No Man's Sky, and we'll have a full review of the game coming up soon. Just want to get a bit more time with the game, before I do my review. I haven't done that many reviews in the past. I've done one of Star Wars Battlefront, and I always like to experience the game in all aspects and visit loads of planets and stuff. So yeah, I don't want to mislead you guys. There's a lot of misleading reviews at the moment. But yeah, that's all I have, so I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.